The Carolina Hurricanes are chasing the top spot in the NHL, while the Seattle Kraken only have one win in their last 10 games. We'll talk about them both and more as we take a look at the hottest and coldest teams in the NHL. Hey everybody, it is time once again to take a look at the 5 hottest and 5 coldest teams in the NHL. Some teams obviously playing really well right now. We're going to talk about them. Some other teams are really struggling, and there's a couple of surprises on the list. So let's get into it. You guys know that I like to start with the hot first, the positive, the good. So let's take a look here. Hottest teams currently in the NHL. And oh boy, do we have a surprise at number 5. It is certainly their first time being on this list this season. I don't think they were on it at all last year either. The Arizona Coyotes are 6-4-0 in their last 10 games. They've won 4 straight. And they are currently one of the hottest teams in the NHL. This is awesome to see. They've been playing great recently, scoring a ton of goals. Their offense has exploded. And it's really good to see a team that's really struggled like the Coyotes in their recent history. They've had a really good stretch here. They've won 4 in a row, and they have made the list. At number 4, we've got the Calgary Flames. Last week's number 1 is still playing pretty darn well. 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're on a current 1-game winning streak, and they're trying to improve on that today. But Calgary continues to lead the Pacific Division, continues to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference, and they're sitting here still in the top 5 for hot teams. At number 3, we've got the Florida Panthers. They are 7-3-0 in their last 10 games, but they are on a 5-game winning streak, which is the longest active winning streak in the NHL right now. Florida continues to be Florida. They continue to be one of the best teams in the East, and they're a really fun team to watch that scores a lot of goals. They're playing really well right now. At number 2, we've got the Boston Bruins. As a Bruins fan, boy, does this feel good to say. They are 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. They won their last game out against Chicago after dropping one in overtime to LA earlier in the week. They're back on track. 8 wins in their last 10 games for the Boston Bruins. This is probably their best 10-game stretch of the season. I can't think of another one earlier in the year that was better. I think this is their best 10-game stretch of the season. Boston is playing very well right now, and they're trying to catch Toronto for that 3rd spot in the Atlantic. But they're not number 1, and that is because number 1 belongs to the Carolina Hurricanes. 8-1-1 in their last 10 games as well. However, they are on a 3-game winning streak, looking to extend that. Obviously they've been playing great. They are chasing down Colorado for the top spot in the NHL. Though they already have passed Colorado as far as point percentage goes, with Colorado kind of slipping here over the last couple of weeks. But as far as total points go in the actual standings, they still haven't quite caught the Avalanche yet. But the Avalanche have played more games. There's a very real possibility that the Carolina Hurricanes could end up being the top team in the NHL this season, and they are showing why with this recent stretch of play here, and playing just absolutely outstanding over these last 10 games. In their last 3, they've won them all. We'll see if they can extend that winning streak even further. Those are the hot teams in the NHL, teams that are playing really well and playing great hockey, gaining points and winning games. Now we have to switch things over to the other side of things, the not so good side of things, the coldest teams in the league. So we take a look here at the coldest teams in the NHL. Coming in at number 5, we have the Philadelphia Flyers. 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. They've lost their last one out. Now, not as bad as they were doing before, but still, Philly wins are hard to come by for Philadelphia. There haven't been that many this year, and that continues with just 3 wins in their last 10 games. At number 4, we've got a bit of a surprise here, or certainly a team that doesn't want to be on this list because they're in a playoff spot, and that is the Minnesota Wild, who are just 3-6-1 in their last 10 games. They lost their last game out in overtime, And Minnesota is starting to slip in the Central Division. They've had a tough go of it here. Nashville is trying to catch them. Nashville's been playing better as of recent. So Minnesota's got to watch here that they don't drop down to a wild card spot, because they're getting pretty close to that. And they've had a tough go of it. They've got to try and get themselves back on track, because that's not a team that can really afford to lose a lot of games in the division that they're in and in the playoff battle that they're in. At number 3, we've got the Detroit Red Wings. They are also 3-6-1 in their last 10 and have also lost their last game out in overtime. Detroit, they've been one of those middle-of-the-road type of teams all year. They're not a playoff team. They're not great, but they're not a last-place team either like they have been. They've shown signs of improvement. They've shown signs of really making a significant jump, but they're not quite ready to be that playoff-level team yet. And this last stretch of games obviously shows it. Number 2, we've got the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, Chicago is also 3-6-1 in their last 10 games. However, they lost their last game out in regulation to the Bruins. And again, just 3 wins out of 10 for the Blackhawks. They're a non-playoff team this year. Well out of it in the West, and they're a team that quite frankly needs to go through some sort of rebuild to try and get themselves set up for the future a little bit better. But right now they're not winning a lot of games, and they are one of the coldest teams in the league. However, they are not the coldest, and that is because number 1 is the Seattle Kraken, just 1-7-2 in their last 10 games. They did lose their last game out in overtime, so they got a point out of it, but still only 1 win in 10 games for the Seattle Kraken. Boy, have they looked like an expansion team this year. This is a lot closer to what's normal for an expansion team than what we saw with Vegas, winning their division and going to the Cup and all that. This has been much more of an expansion type season, and it continues for the Kraken, who are last place in the Pacific. And, as you can see, not playing all that well as of these last 10 games. So those are your coldest teams in the NHL, teams that are really struggling. A lot of them only have 3 wins out of 10. Seattle only has 1 win out of 10. It's been a rough go for these guys. There you have it, everybody. Hottest and coldest teams in the NHL. Obviously, some teams are playing great right now, especially, Boston, Carolina, those teams with 8 wins out of their last 10 games. Florida's on a 5-game winning streak, playing really well. Some other teams, though, really not doing all that well recently. Obviously, Seattle with only 1 win in their last 10 is rough. You've also got a bunch of teams that only have won 3 out of the 10. A surprise there in Minnesota who's struggling. So we'll have to see how this changes next week. What teams jump onto the list, which teams jump off, how the records change, all of that. But for this past little bit in the NHL here, those are your hottest and coldest teams. So with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our merchandise store membership and donations are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.